Sport has the power to change the world.
Welcome to episode 3 of The Power of Sport, proudly brought to you by Laureus South Africa with me, Jean Smyth. But first, a big thank you to all of you that have listened to our opening 2 episodes, engaged with us on Twitter at Laureus_SA, as well as on Facebook and watched on YouTube. Please do keep your support coming. So, what to look forward to then in this podcast? Well, strap yourself in. Yours truly joined 13,795 other runners at night on the streets of Johannesburg at the JP Morgan Corporate Challenge, a testament to the power of corporate South Africa, and all with a charitable element too. We traveled to Atlantic Beach Golf Club to check out the Mercedes Trophy with an eye on the prize of a trip, not just to Mauritius, but to Europe with clubs in tow. And normally armed with the mic, we finally turned the tables on presenter Dan Nicholl. He regularly finds himself on thin ice, but we caught up with him to find out about season 5 of his show. And you've got a bag packed full of goodies here. Will we see a leotard in the Dan Nicholl show?
I've been looking for sequins, but my wife put her foot down. She said she's seen me do enough silly things on television.
SA footballing giant Lucas Radebe talks goalkeeping heroics, Bafana, and what the people of Leeds mean to him, and in turn, what he meant to them.
There was one guy who came to me at some point, says, he was in a wheelchair. He says, I've never respected a player like I respected you. I feel like I could walk. He told me, he says, I feel like I could stand up and walk.
And we go beyond the river, a story that will inspire all, and as co-star Lemachang Tipa points out, remind us that it's not all doom and gloom.
There's a few barriers between somebody like Steve or Pearson and somebody like myself. One is the language barrier, where he can communicate in English, but it's not his first language. So his ability to communicate all of his ideas, whether it's an emotional thing or a strategical thing or a thing on a friendship level, that crossing that boundary or trying to find a language to communicate that was a bit of a challenge. But for me, I find it adds a nice realism in the film and a lifelike sort of situation. I find crossing that boundary and finding a way in which you can create a language between two people that are vastly different is where the magic sort of lies.
Go to iTunes, be kind and subscribe, and leave a comment and give us a rating, and drop us a note on social media too. Welcome to the show. We start then in Johannesburg. Late March, nearly 14,000 people shed their ties, high heels and suit jackets for running gear and took to the streets of the northern suburbs for the 40th running of the JP Morgan Corporate Challenge. It's a global initiative taking place in 13 countries around the world to celebrate camaraderie, corporate teamwork and community, and Joburg impressively saw 237 companies represented. A whole host of Laureus ambassadors and special guests were in attendance, including the likes of Matthew Booth, Dan Nicholl, Doug Ryder, Grant Lottering, Cynthia Chaka, Proverb, and Liesl Laurie. The event was capped by a superb performance from band Good Luck, while JP Morgan's Mark Hussey made a presentation to Laureus South Africa Chairman Morné du Plessis to recognize their support of the Youth Empowerment Through Sport program.
So JP Morgan, for the 4th consecutive year, on behalf of all of the runners and walkers participating today in the Corporate Challenge, will be donating to the Laureus Sports for Good Foundation. And we're obviously proud and privileged to do that. Laureus is supporting 22 projects across 80 communities in South Africa. Laureus uses sport to effect social change as a force for good in society. Since Laureus's foundation, it has raised over 80 million rand. And has used that in its projects and programs to improve the lives of over 100,000 youth in South Africa. So please join me in welcoming the chairman of Laureus South Africa, Morné du Plessis.
Mark, JP Morgan, the people of Johannesburg, the corporates, thank you for your open-heartedness, generosity. Thank you for enjoying yourselves. Thank you for living our motto, which is sport for good, which is exactly what today was about. And we are very grateful to you for this incredible gesture.
One of the big draw cards on the night was the presence of former South Africa football captain Lucas Radebe, with runners literally queuing up to be in the presence of the big man. Well, I was one of those and managed to find the only relatively quiet place in Ilovo on the night to have a quick chat. I asked him what he's currently up to and what it's going to take for Shakes Mashaba's successor to turn the national team around.
I think for me it's a token of appreciation. Again, for me, it's an opportunity to meet up with the people that has really supported me all along during my career. And in life, and the people that inspired me to do the best I can in the field of play or wherever I am. Sometimes it's hard as footballers or as sports personalities to show your appreciation, because people think of us in a different way, egos. But for me, I've learned that what I've achieved is not only on my own, and there was people behind my success, and these are the people and the kind of work with what I'm involved in supporting different organizations like Laureus. I mean, those are the people that are really still make me look at life in a different perspective, which I really appreciate. And being here, seeing everybody else, and it's amazing.
And it's something that you've always been passionate about. I mean, I know you started doing charitable work when you were a player already, and it's something that's continued into post-playing. What are you actually up to at the moment?
When you see talent and you realize that talent might not reach where it's supposed to be, it breaks my heart. And not that because it get derailed, but because it falls through the structures. But again, it's about those who has the talent, but because of the disabilities, they can't even realize their talents. But for me, being here, I mean, it's being with the people who are very influential when it comes to corporate, when it comes to making impacts in a different way. It's absolutely amazing, because for me that's worth while coming all the way and making sure that at least now I do contribute a little bit. But for me it's not about winning, but it's all about coming together for a great cause and mingling with people that I've seen Deshaun Daisel today. I saw Cynthia Chaka. I've seen people that I haven't seen for a long time, which is great. Sometimes you only see them on TV. You're going to have to pay in order to see them. But to see them here, in such a great event, JP Morgan, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's all the time I come over here, it's well organized. And people keep coming. I mean, 13,000 today, it's absolutely amazing.
There are few people in this country whose opinion perhaps around the national team that would be more respected than yours. When this podcast goes out, we hope that Safa by then would have been appointed a national coach. But is there an issue for you in terms of how long that process has taken? Has it had an impact, perhaps negatively, perhaps positively, if we look at how the side have played in the last two games on the national team?
I don't think we should be carried away too quickly, especially after watching the two games. Absolutely amazing. On paper, you look at all the names, absolutely amazing. Great team, great squad. I mean, you could see the way they played. Brilliant. We got a mixture of international players, local, up and coming, which is what we need. But obviously, I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, Owen is he's an interim coach. He's under 23 actually, and then still looking for a permanent manager who will take the national team to the next level and realize the talent that's here in terms of the tradition and the culture and the philosophy of football in the country. Because it's important that whoever is going to take over the reins, he has to understand and buy into the structures of what we want to achieve in this country and be involved all the way through. Because normally, I mean, we look at international coaches that have come over. Do they understand our philosophy of football? Do we have philosophy, that they buy into the structures of the organization, which is the FA? And that's very important. And you're gonna have to be careful, because it might be somebody who could come in and not be popular. And then especially after what Bafana's performances over the last 2 games with Owen, it was absolutely great. So it's a challenge. You know, it's not that easy. You need somebody who's going to be there long term, who's going to buy into the vision.
Well, fascinating stuff from the Chief there. And towards the end of this episode, we'll catch up again with him to reflect on his days at Leeds United with a special word from his former boss, David O'Leary, and also put him on the spot in our special Blitz feature. You don't want to miss it, especially you, Harry Kuehl. As an amateur golfer, it can be a bit galling at times to watch the pros seemingly keep the ball on the proverbial string in some of the world's most beautiful places week in and week out. Well, no more. One of the world's biggest and most prestigious amateur events is the Mercedes Trophy. It's played in over 45 countries with 27 regional events held in South Africa to qualify for the much sought-after finals. Not too shabby at all. So I took a drive up the west coast to Atlantic Beach to see who was in line to book themselves a spot on a plane to Mauritius, where the prize on offer there, if that wasn't enough, a trip of a lifetime to the World Finals in Stuttgart, Germany, to represent Mzansi. With resident Springbok grazing on the 9th fairway and Table Mountain magnificently in shot from the clubhouse, organizer Diane Mark told me just how special this tournament is.
The Mercedes Trophy is a World Series, and South Africa have now been participating for 21 years. And the dealers in all the various regions participate. We have on average 23 to 25 dealers doing exactly the same thing as the rest of the world. And we put through about 3,300 players a year in the series, all customers of Mercedes Benz. From year on, we take them through to a national final, which gets played in Mauritius in August. And then from there, the winners go on to our World Series in Germany. They play in Stuttgart, competing against 40 other countries, and it's just an amazing series.
I'm looking at the beautifully branded clothing that you guys have got as well, AMG, Maybach, and I suppose from our perspective as well, Laureus features prominently. We know that it's an important link with Mercedes. Just tell us in terms of this specific trophy where that connection comes in.
Yeah, you know, the golf is great and our customers are great, but it's always very important to give back. So Mercedes-Benz are aligned with Laureus International right through Germany, everywhere, and so is South Africa. So it's very important that we do give back. All the money that we raise on the day, be it through the raffles or the auctions, gets donated to Laureus to help the kids through sport. And we have the ambassadors from Laureus coming to attend and speak at the days. Tonight we've got Mornay du Plessis. Last night we had Natalie du Toit. And, you know, they put him back into sport, so it's very important that Mercedes-Benz does the same.
Yeah, Natalie's a great ambassador for Laureus and also for the event itself. How was she received last night?
Unbelievably. She is just amazing. She is so humble and she speaks incredibly well. I met her last year at one of the days up in Joburg and she recognized me, and it was like so nice, and she just speaks on the heart, and the people were just loving every minute that she spoke last night. 2 years down, in Cape Town, on the very first hole of the day, the lady put it in and won an SLK. The only negative of that was she had to carry on and play the whole round of golf. But yeah, it was great excitement. I mean, everyone was just screaming. So, you know, some people get lucky, but not today.
Well, you might think that Bakkies Botha or Aaron Mokoena might be South Africa's toughest sporting personality, or perhaps even Brian McMillan after his days of snarling at Australia's crop of potent cricketers. Well, you'd be wrong. Not afraid to chirp the biggest, toughest, and sometimes wittiest, and to date without a scar to prove otherwise, it is therefore fact. That man is surely Dan Nicholl, Laureus ambassador, writer, broadcaster, and also host of the show on SuperSport bearing his name, which in the blink of an eye is already into its 5th season. There are very few things that Dan won't do for his craft, and, as I discovered, I can now confirm that gambling with his life on the ice rink at the Grand West Casino isn't one of those.
Yeah, this could be the last interview I ever do. We do some daft stuff on the show, as well as having our in-studio conversations with a range of guests. We also have an insert each week. Quite often features a Laureus project. It also quite often features me doing things I probably shouldn't be doing. So in the past, I've been skiing off-piste in Switzerland with Mike Horn, which was fringe suicidal. We've been driving into oncoming traffic as we made our way through the roads of Bangkok. I played tennis with Pat Cash in London and explored the Zambezi River, went swimming with Cameron van der Berg. Today I'm going ice skating. I might have been born in Northern Ireland, but I grew up in Zimbabwe. There's not a lot of ice in Zimbabwe, but it just seemed like a fun thing to do. Sun International, one of our partners on the show, very kindly offered up their ice rink. I think mainly because they just wanted to watch me attempt to ice skate, but to ensure that the embarrassment is not confined to just me, I've roped in an eye-catching beauty and a very funny person. The eye-catching beauty would be Joanne Strauss, former Miss South Africa, and now a very celebrated television presenter and a great philanthropist. And the funny man is a good mate of mine, a guy called KG Mochade. He's one of the larger comedians we have in South Africa. I'm not sure what's going to happen today, but this should be a lot of fun.
Sounds terrifying. And you've got a bag packed full of goodies here. Will we see a leotard in the Dan Nicholl show?
I've been looking for sequins, but my wife put her foot down. She said she's seen me do enough silly things on television. I think I have a floral shirt, which we'll have to do for my ice skating debut. I've been watching it. It just looks so easy. It's like any sport. When the professionals are doing it, it looks like anybody can do it. Then you step out and try it yourself. I was filming some underwater hockey last week and came close to drowning trying to play it. I think the ice skating, the aesthetics will be secondary to simply self-preservation.
Dan, 5th season of the show now. I can't believe it's gone so quickly, just as a watcher and somebody that sees it regularly. Obviously, social media is always a buzz with it every week. Just talk us back to the start. I know it was the reality of a long dream of yours.
It was indeed. I'd just finished university. I had been a few years before that a Rotary exchange student to Australia, and I'd seen a show called The Footy Show in Australia, which was a completely new look at sport for me. It wasn't just about sport, it was about personality and about having some fun, and it didn't take itself too seriously. And having watched South African television and South African sporting television in particular, I did get the feeling that we tended to take it all a little too seriously. Conversations with sports people were all about giving 110% and making sure that spirit in the camp was good and getting the balance of the ball. And I felt there's got to be more to these guys. And as I worked in the sports industry, as I worked for Cape Talk and worked as a sports journalist, I started to get to know a lot of the sports guys and realised that behind that press conference veneer, there were some really funny, really entertaining guys with great stories that we just didn't hear. And I tried filming a pilot with Bob Skinstad, Robbie Fleck and Corne Krige and Stuart Taylor, the comedian. We filmed it. It got absolutely nowhere. And in fact, the premise for the show was borrowed without our permission by another channel, and they put it on, and Stuart Taylor and I watched it with tears streaming down our cheeks and never watched it again. And from there, it just kind of bubbled under. I'd always wanted to do it. And 10, 12, 13 years later, I managed, together with a guy called Kelvin Watt, who runs a company called Frontiers in Johannesburg, to put together a pilot. And in the audience was a lady called Suzanne Stevens, who runs a company called Bright Rock. She liked what she saw, which was fantastic, and they agreed to come on board and partner us. And we took the show to very low expectations out to market. We got it onto SuperSport. They were really supportive. We started with a half-hour show once a week. Most people very kindly and gently just let me know that it wasn't going to last, and it was nice and fun, but it didn't have potential. And we're now a full hour. We're into our 5th season. We've had over 60 episodes now. We've interviewed some of South Africa's greatest sports people, but also some of our greatest comedians, actors, celebrity chefs, musicians. Had a really nice mix, and along the way discovered that we've got some pretty extraordinary people in this country of ours.
Any particular standout moment? And I suppose I might say highlight or low light, but in this instance they might be exactly the same thing.
We've had a few. We've had some great guest combinations. We had Sia Kolisi on the show, Chris Burtish before he left on his trip across the ocean, and Donovan Goliath, the comedian. These guys had met each other for the first time an hour before the show. You'd have thought they'd known each other for 20 years. They just gelled beautifully. At the end of each show, I give one of our guests a gift, and I gave Kevin Peterson a copy of Andrew Strauss's autobiography. He threw it off stage and refused to read it, which was great. And then I asked Bucky's Buerter during season 4, having had Victor Matfield on the show the season before that, and Victor having said that he was never scared of anybody in the field because Bucky's was there to look after him. I asked Bucky's if he'd ever been scared of anybody, and he looked at me with something verging on contempt and said, "No, Dan, the guy I'm scared of hasn't been born yet."
The Laureus Foundation, very close to your heart. You are an ambassador as well for Laureus South Africa, and there's a special element included in your show as well, linked directly to that.
Yeah, I'd like to think I'm an ambassador because of my sporting prowess and natural athleticism, but I think the reason that I've been incredibly fortunate and honoured to get the Laureus ambassadorship is because I have such passion for what sport can do. It's changed my life in the context of this show, but also what I did before then as a sports journalist and working my way up to where I am now. And so to bring Laureus into the show was a natural fit. And we have Laureus as the official charity, and so during the course of each show with our inserts we'll try and include a few. So to have had the opportunity to bring Laureus ambassadors and academy members onto the show, we filmed a special edition of the show from the Laureus Awards in Shanghai a couple of years ago. We've showcased many people from current Laureus chairman Sean Fitzpatrick to his predecessor Ed Moses. We've had people like Hugo Porta and Nadia Comaneci, Franz Klammer on the show, and it's great to talk to them about who they are and what they've done, because they're all iconic figures. But when you talk to any of them about Laureus, you can see the eyes light up, you can see the passion coming through, and you know that their legacy, with what time they have left, is to put into Laureus and to make sure that we use this immense power of sport to leave the world a better place than when we found it.
Dan, final one. You are known for your exceptionally quick wit. I've seen you have a go at sports people of all shapes, sizes and description in a very nice way. There are people out there that will want to know, have you ever been physically threatened?
I think by and large most people understand that I'm always the first person I'll make fun of, and anybody else comes second to that. I do my level best to avoid shaking Mike Horn's hand. That's advice I can give to everybody. I was picked up once at an event in Scotland by Groot Skalkberger, if you don't know, is the man who does the body double work for Hagrid in the Harry Potter movies, and it was in fact that exact line I'd used, and he picked me up at the old course at St Andrews and rolled me down the hill at the road hole. And I also got buried by Bram van Straten in a tackle playing in a pseudo-celebrity rugby match, and I woke up from a few minutes later. But by and large everything is done in good spirits and everybody has a good laugh, and as I say, I'll always take the mickey out of myself first, and I think you've got to be able to laugh at yourself and then everybody else, and that's the ethos of me as a person, but also the show. We live in a country with a huge amount of challenges, but we also live in the most beautiful country in the world. We have extraordinary people, and wherever I travel around the world, when I touch back down in South Africa, and I'm usually overseas once or twice a month, and I'm home, and I'm happy to be home. And for all our challenges, for all our difficulties, for all our desperately depressing front pages, if we remember to have a laugh at ourselves and remember the good things as well as the bad, I think it does give us some much needed perspective.
2 lives, 1 journey. That's the line used to describe new South African film Beyond the River. It certainly seems set for success, telling a story that uses sport to highlight and celebrate human endeavor no matter your background. It's a joint venture between Heartlines and Quizzical Pictures and tells the unlikely story of Siseko Ntindini and Piers Cruikshanks joining forces to win a gold in the 2014 Doozy Canoe Marathon. I attended the premiere in Cape Town and caught up with actor Grant Swanby, who plays Cruikshanks, and his co-star Lemogang Tipo plays Duma, a young man from Soweto who turns his back on a life of crime to become, well, someone.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
And so it's a machine. He's won 9 golds in the Doozy.
The thing about films is that you never know. You write a script and you feel like it's kind of working on the page, but it can sort of go wrong at any point, you know. I feel that it was pretty much as good as we could have got it, you know, in terms of what we wanted out of it, what we wanted out of the emotional story and the sports story and, you know, just the issues that the film was dealing with, which are difficult issues. And sometimes, you know, you have to walk a fine line. And I think that what these guys did was bring a kind of an honesty and an authenticity to their interactions that just felt very real. And I think that's partially what makes the film work. Besides, you know, all of the action and the drama and the other stuff, I think that there's a wonderful honesty and authenticity to the performances.
Grant, I mean, your character goes through the full set of emotions in this film, and it certainly comes from a very different position than Lemor's. And your character also goes to some very dark personal spaces, if memory serves me. Just as an actor and as a journey in this particular film, what was the experience like?
Well, the experience as a whole was fantastic. It was great working with Lemo and the rest of the cast, and with Craig. I've been wanting to work with Craig for ages. I shot something with him a few years ago, which was a part of the sitcom that he was doing, an improvised sitcom. But other than that, I've been wanting to work on one of his movies, so I was really happy to get this role. But in terms of the characterization, it was really nice for me because I'm actually like a really light-hearted guy, and Steve isn't. And with as you spoke about the dark places that he had to go to, it kind of stretched me as an actor to be able to, you know, to find that within myself.
Next year I want to do the race. Maybe I can do it with you.
Lemo, in some of the very real scenes in this, I'm thinking you asked Grant's character to partner with him, and those kind of very real human interactions. What was it like, from an actor, but possibly what Siseko would have gone through as well?
Yeah, it's a tough space to be in because from a character's perspective, whether it's Siseko or Dumas in the film, there's a few barriers between somebody like Steve or Pearson and somebody like myself. One is the language barrier, where he can communicate in English, but it's not his first language. So his ability to communicate all of his ideas, whether it's an emotional thing or a strategical thing or a thing on a friendship level, that crossing that boundary or trying to find a language to communicate that was a bit of a challenge. But for me, I find it adds a nice realism in the film and a lifelike sort of situation. And I find crossing that boundary and finding a way in which you can create a language between two people that are vastly different is where the magic sort of lies.
What do you do in Joburg? And what do you want to do?
I want to be a somebody.
It's me, Steve, it's Duma.
I wanted to talk about canoeing.
We can try. I'm not saying it's going to work or anything. We can try.
But Steve, me, I'm scared of those things.
What's it going to do to you?
Bite me. You white people here call your dogs nice things with fluffy. Me, where I come from, we call them Hitler.
You've all spoken very humorously about the learning how to paddle, how to canoe, that kind of experience. What was it like for you?
Learning how to canoe, I always say, is like trying to ride a unicycle on a tightrope. It's one of the most impossible, hardest tasks, but we got given enough time to be able to do it to a competent level, I think.
Down my shoulder! Don't force it, man. We were hopeless. I've done 15 flippin' doozies. How many you got? Keep your mouth! It's, as you said, it's an incredibly relevant message at the moment. Everything seems to be really divisive at the moment in South African cultural and political sphere. And so it's really important for us to look at ourselves, and then in looking at ourselves, realize that as South Africans, as human beings, but as South Africans in particular, we all have emotion, we all are the same inside, even though we can be completely different culturally and speak different languages. I want people to, after they've watched this film, I really want them to look at the people they interact with every day, the people that they, before watching the film, maybe didn't see, and reach out to them, listen to their story, find out what it's like to be them, and hopefully we can bridge the gap and become one country again.
This is not okay. I think that we should see a psychologist.
How do you want to do this race with me? You're strong, and you don't give up, and I want to be like that.
ngakhohlwa ukuthi uyinika uNkulunkulu lento and into oyinika uNkulunkulu akekho umuntu ozoyithatha.
You're the one who said we must become like one person, and we're not.
Central to Laureus' theme is sports has the power to change the world. As you know, this movie would seem to espouse that in every single sense of the word, correct?
Yeah, and it was obviously a huge theme of the film, you know, because it's the story of a lot of those guys like Siseko who grew up in very desperate circumstances, but once or twice a week would go and get on the water and enter another world, you know, forget about their life for a while and just almost like a meditation, you know, to just be on the water, be exercising, doing something that was positive. And not only that, then the sport also opened up new worlds for them, you know, and certainly people like Siseko has been overseas, he's now studying law, a lot of it through canoeing, you know, because he was able to kind of just find a direction in a community that's very depressed, you know, where there isn't a lot of hope. And it was a really big theme for us, this idea of the world opening up, you know. So in our photography, we really like this idea that, you know, the first sort of 30 minutes of the film is very claustrophobic, you know, he's sort of stuck in this informal settlement in his life. He's got dodgy friends who are trying to make him do bad things.
And Grant's character's stuck in a
and he's stuck in his own world, in sort of like an emotional trap. You know, with my director of photography, we worked really hard on that idea that when that combi hits the road, you know, that what we are seeing is the world really opening up for Duma's character, you know, that there is a bigger world out there, and just because you've been born into this circumstance doesn't mean that you have to stay there for the rest of your life. There are ways out, but you have to grab them and you have to, you know, go for it.
Is that the ocean? That's the first time I see it.
Well, while we were learning how to canoe, there was a very interesting chap that we met, rowed this boat and said, your left is my left, and we're still trying to decipher and understand.
He was coming towards us. That doesn't make sense. And yeah, I just got to say, the one thing that Lemo can't do is steer a canoe. We, at some stages, got to the other bank quicker than we were lined up with all the pros, and they went straight, and we went right into the other bank the first few times.
That movie out now in cinemas across South Africa. I urge you to go and see it. Take the whole family, and I promise that you'll not be disappointed. So we heard from South African footballing icon Lucas Radebe earlier on, and he gave us cause for great optimism, particularly if you're a South Africa fan. Now, while he was a hero to Kaizer Chiefs and other clubs he played at, in many respects it's the impact he had in club football while at Leeds that he's most remembered for. In the second part of my interview with him at the JP Morgan Corporate Challenge, I asked him what place the club held in his own heart.
Just for those listening, there's a big party in the background, as you can hear. A real party here at the JP Morgan Corporate Challenge. Let's take it overseas to a city very well known for its music, but where you are still an absolute legend. Leeds, fourth in the championship at the moment. That Premier League spot is what that city needs, isn't it? That team needs.
Actually, I've spoken to a couple of guys at Leeds this afternoon. Says the city is buzzing again. Because I think Gary Monk has really managed to get a squad that can compete now, not only in the championship, but that is promising, to actually get promoted to the Premier League, which is where I think Leeds where it belongs. It's not the same without Leeds. You look at that Premiership, like where's Leeds United? Yeah. I think the Premiership misses Leeds, but it's a great club. It's absolutely amazing. It's a massive team. And I'm happy and I'm excited because I said to myself that if they go to the playoffs, I'm going to support them because Leeds will always remain part of my life and will remain part of my career forever, and they will always be close to my heart.
I know they've had a couple of off-the-field issues over the last few years in terms of ownership and stuff. I spoke to David O'Leary quite recently in an interview who spoke incredibly highly of you. I know that he was the assistant to George Graham, obviously, and George moved on to Spurs. I'm a Spurs fan. You'll forgive me for that, I'm sure, in this conversation. But, the way that you mentioned the fans, the way that they really took you to heart, was there any particular memory that sticks out in your mind, perhaps something that people don't really know about Leeds and the city even that really is a favourite anecdote that perhaps you tell your kids about your time there?
Walking on the streets of Leeds, people bowing down on my feet. Sometimes I didn't understand at first. And I'm thinking, what the hell? What is he doing? But it's something that has really got me emotional. And to see how my contribution just with football can make you belong to a place where it was full of racism, and especially as a black guy from South Africa, and being taken into heart like that. It was absolutely amazing. There was one guy who came to me at some point. He says, he was in a wheelchair. He says, I've never respected a player like I respected you. I feel like I could walk. He told me, he says, I feel like I could stand up and walk. And those are the things that sometimes you're like, okay, it'll be a miracle. But those are the things that it takes me aback, and I'm like, what? I mean, I've only just played football and I've only given my best, to a club that gave me an opportunity to play in the Premiership. And with the great managers that I've had, from Howard Wilkinson to George Graham, David O'Leary, who really said I should be chained to a rock, shouldn't be leaving the club at some point when there was interest. And those are the people that have really contributed immensely, and that I will always carry them close to my heart and wherever I go. I intend going to Leeds soon for my little boy, and hopefully, I think we'll revive all those great memories.
I think he was a natural leader. To be perfectly honest, you won't meet a better man. For all Lucas Radebe, in my opinion, was a great football player. He was even a better man. I think he was just a fantastic person to deal with. And to replace him, you had to get somebody of real high quality, and there wasn't many out there. And we brought in a player called Rio Ferdinand, and that was a compliment to Lucas in ways, because that's the standard we need to replace Lucas Radebe. And as I say, I couldn't have had a better captain. He was outstanding.
David, is there any particular kind of anecdote or memory about him that stands out for you in terms of the relationship that you had with him?
I couldn't give you one. It was just always a pleasure to see Lucas every day, getting on with his job, never complaining. At times he'd come back playing international football after a long journey with South Africa, and he'd get back maybe a day before he had to play a Premier League game. I knew he was very tired and his knee was aching. He had a long problem with it. But as we call him, the chief, just rolled his sleeves up and got on with it, didn't complain, and never let anybody down. And as I say, it was an absolute pleasure to know him, to have him as your captain, and as I say, to know him as a person.
And he really won the hearts of the fans as well, didn't he? Which, for any player, particularly if you're coming from abroad and perhaps not of the town or the city that you're from, is difficult to do.
Yes, and Yorkshire people they're tough people to please, but they're people that know in every game, if you give 100%, even if you don't play well, but you go out there and represent Leeds and do the best for them, they'll support you, and that's what Lucas stood for.
And we played a little game with him, forced him to choose between Harry Kewell and Mark Viduka. After many considerations, quite a lengthy period, he went for Mark Viduka as a real character. How would his teammates have felt about Lucas?
Probably the first player you'd be picking of all his teammates would be Lucas to play, and then the people around him. All his teammates always knew going out in the field when Lucas was playing with Leeds were a better team and they had a better chance of winning. He was just a fantastic defender. His teammates knew how good he was, because when I had to do certain things, and when I had to get him to mark some of them in training, they knew what the players in the opposition teams had to go through, because Lucas was tough, he was fair, and he was strong.
He also, of course, had a distinguished career as a Leeds United goalkeeper.
Yes, especially, you know what, not only as a goalkeeper, against who?
Man United.
That's the most important thing, yes.
Was it Man United?
Yes, because it was the Battle of the Roses, because there's a great rivalry between the two, And that day, I'll never forget. And people will always want to say, because I went to Switzerland, and I met Alex, and I went to him, and he still remember, says, you know what, you were such a great goalkeeper that day. I said, why didn't you stick to goalkeeping? I'm like, okay, what do you think? Because you wanted me to join you, so you're going to put me in goal? He said, no chance. So, it was, for me, it was one of those times where I could do anything for a club, or I could do anything for my career. Actually, I started at Middlesbrough, and then I kept a clean sheet at Middlesbrough at home, and then the Man United was the second time, and to lose 1-0 against them, it was amazing. It was absolutely great.
Wonderful memories.
Leeds fans, please do send us your Lucas tributes on Twitter or on Facebook, and I'll include them in our next episode. Perhaps you'd like to see him back at the club in some sort of capacity. Then on to our feature that's already put Rake Netling and Daley Thompson firmly on the spot. It's Blitz. 7 questions, either or answers, and no time to think. So, Lucas Radebe, 3, 2, 1.
We play Blitz. We've had already Daley Thompson, the former decathlete, who told us that he prefers the All Blacks over the Springboks, so we kicked him out of South Africa as quickly as he got here. And then we also played it with Rake Netling in the Dubai International Airport on the way back from Monaco, and he was great as well. So here we go. Zola or Cantona?
Cantona.
In football, Germany or Brazil?
Brazil.
Ronaldo or Messi?
Oh, Messi.
Did you see that bust that came out of Ronaldo?
I saw that. Amazing.
Cricket or rugby?
Cricket.
La Liga or Premier League?
Premier League.
Final one, our 7th one, and just to rile our friends up in Australia, Harry Kewell or Mark Viduka?
That's a tough one, eh? That's not easy, both of them.
No, you got to choose one, Lucas.
That's not easy, man. I think Viduka.
Great stuff. Lucas, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. All the best, and please keep doing what you're doing. It's great to see you.
No, thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure and great to be here.
What a pleasure that was indeed. That's it from this episode of The Power of Sport. I hope that you've enjoyed it. We've got a very exciting episode 4 lined up. Boss of cycling team Dimension Data, Doug Ryder, gives us an insight on how preparations are going for the Tour de France. Grant Lottering takes us deep into what makes him believe that I'm Possible is exactly that. Take a moment. 96 hours, 1,800 kilometers on a bicycle, over 40 mountains. We delve deep to find out why and simply how. This from a man who's already incredibly cheated death once.
I knew I was in serious trouble. I immediately started to literally vomit blood. I was trying to breathe. I couldn't. I was bleeding profusely. I ruptured veins in my arm and my neck, and there was a lot of blood, and my shoulder was crushed, my collarbone shattered, my shoulder blade was broken in multiple places. I had internal bleeding in my abdomen, my spleen, my thorax collapsed. I broke my sternum, my femur neck, compound fractures in my spine. I broke my lumbar spine and both my lungs were punctured. I broke 12 ribs. I started to lose all feeling, all pain left my body. And I couldn't hear anything. I saw all these faces, but I couldn't hear anything. And I started to lose my sight. And I realized I'm dying. And I had about 10 seconds where I literally was able to talk with God in my spirit. It was incredible. I'll never, ever forget it.
And I traveled to Johannesburg to meet with royalty. Her Serene Highness, Princess Charlene of Monaco, sits down with me to chat about her foundation, Laureus, and what she does to keep fit. Plus, she features in Blitz.
Nadia Comaneci or Simone Biles?
That's a tough one.
Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment and a rating. From me, Jean Smyth, it's been an absolute pleasure to be in your company. Until next time, cheers.